record holder in kettlebells, including 7 Master of Sport titles, which is kind of like a black belt martial arts.
And handstand enthusiast.
I can't believe I forgot that.
Winners never quit, and quitters never win.
Quitters win all the time. Let us show you how on Quit Happens.
Hey everyone! Before we get on to today's episode, which features Brittany van Schravendijk, who is a kettlebell world champion and coach at Core Strength and Conditioning here in North Park, San Diego, I just wanted to send a huge thanks to everybody who has written a review on iTunes, who's given me some stars, who sent me a text message, or told me in person that the show has really spoken to them in some way or the other. I just wanted to say I really appreciate hearing it. I love feedback of all types, and to hear what kind of episodes have resonated with you in certain ways or made you feel less alone or given you some strategies for thinking about things. All of that's super helpful to me, and I just wanted to, on this Valentine's Day, send my love to all of you for being so supportive. So without further ado, here's the next episode of Quit Happens. Hey everyone, it's Lynn Marie, back with the next episode of Quit Happens. If you enjoyed this episode and you'd like to check out more about strategic quitting, you can find me on the web at quittingbydesign.com. You can also find me on Facebook at Quitting by Design, on Instagram at Quitting by Design, and on Twitter at lmorski, which is LMORSKI. Now, without further ado, I'd like to begin our episode today with Brittany van Schravendijk. She is a San Diego-based personal trainer. She is an international kettlebell sport athlete and coach. She is a world champion in that. She has multiple national titles and 7
Master of Sport ranks.
Gotcha, which is a rough equivalent of black belts in martial arts. This is very exciting for me personally because I just started doing kettlebells about a year ago, and I found Brittany on Instagram through some amazing photos she had of actually handstands. And the way that the universe works, I just started clicking through her profile, and I see that in one of her photos, she has shared a quitting story. And I thought, I have to reach out to her. Like, this is amazing. She's right in my backyard. So Brittany did not begin life as a kettlebell whiz. She was, well, you can take us back to high school if you'd like, but the as far back I know is the engineering portion of things. So if you could take us back to that.
So as I kind of mentioned to you before we started, coming out of high school, I was a valedictorian. I was, really into my studies and didn't really know what I wanted to do in college. Like, they say, choose a subject you're good at. And I was like, well, I could be kind of good at all of them, I guess. But my dad and brother being engineers kind of encouraged me towards that path. And I thought, okay, this will be a challenge. So I decided to follow the route of a civil engineering major at UC Berkeley. Not the easiest of things to take on. So first couple years there, super challenging. If you study engineering, the first couple of years are, they're going to be hard. So I kind of stuck those years out and got into my third year and was thinking that this would be kind of the fun course material I would really enjoy and be passionate about. So while it was interesting, don't get me wrong, civil engineers do a lot of really awesome projects. It just wasn't something that really got me super excited. And, going into college, I never really thought about what my day-to-day life would look like after college. I just kind of thought, well, I'm going to get a good job and make a lot of money and, I'll be set to go. And I never really thought, well, what is that going to look like? Am I going to like what I'm doing? So as the end of college started getting closer, I saw this, route of what my life would be like as a civil engineer. And it kind of was looming like a prison sentence. Just the fact of like being chained behind a desk, 9 to 5, staring at a computer screen. And I just thought, I can't do that for my whole life. That seems like, it just doesn't seem fun. And I felt like I want to enjoy my day to day. So while I was kind of going through a little bit of this crisis during my third year, I had just gotten an internship at a local gym as I was looking for something athletic to get back into after doing track and field in high school and a little bit in college. And I just really, really loved this job. Not only were there some great mentors for me there, but this is where I was introduced to kettlebell training. I just started, working with people and seeing how much of an impact you could make on their life through physical training and helping them change their mindset around their strengths and their body. And so as I was going through that crisis with my studies, I was just finding myself spending more and more time at the gym and wishing that could be, what I was going to do. But I definitely struggled through a lot of self-doubt and thinking about what my family or my friends or just society in general would think of me dropping an engineering degree from Cal to become, just a personal trainer, or that was my impression. Whether or not that was true, I especially for my family, I don't think it was, but I was afraid of that. So I kind of struggled for a little while, and finally towards the end of my last year at Cal, I realized that, despite what anybody might think about me making this decision, I was the one who would have to live with the day-to-day consequences of that decision. So if I chose to go into something I really didn't like, I was the one who would have to be miserable there, despite maybe making a lot of money. But, in my opinion there, it was like, what's the point of the money, logging those hours away if you're not actually enjoying it? So I decided to just kind of take the leap and just take a full-time job at the gym where I had been working part-time and see where that would take me. And so far, it's going pretty good.
Sounds like it.
I'm enjoying it. So I think I just realized that, to me, having the kind of security of making X amount of dollars per month was just not worth giving up certain freedoms or certain really enjoyments of every single day. So while, I wouldn't say I'm rolling in the dough or anything, I definitely am very happy with my choice, and I don't struggle for money, so everything has turned out great for me, with the biggest thing being I just look forward to every day currently doing what I do.
That's amazing. I'm so impressed that at such a young age. How old were you when you made this decision to switch from engineering or even pursuing engineering to full-time fitness?
22.
Wow. That takes some people a lifetime. I mean, if everybody could just get to where you got, my book and podcast would not be necessary.
I know. I almost wish I had figured it out before college, but I don't think at 18 I was ready to. I don't think I knew or would have had the ability to kind of make that choice, especially with, at least coming from my family, what I knew, it was like college is just sort of a given. Like, you're going to college to study something, and then you're going to get a good job because that's just what you do.
Right. Talk a little bit about the decision to continue to pursue the degree and to finish it.
Yeah, that was definitely a struggle, but I had already made it, 3.5 years into, or 2.5 to 3 years into a really tough degree from Cal, and I felt like it was kind of a waste of all the work I had put in if I didn't get a degree. I mean, I must say that people definitely look at me a certain way when I tell them I have an engineering degree from Cal. I think it does say something about my work ethic probably, and that I am smart, I guess, whatever that really means to different people. But yeah, I'm not sure if that necessarily was or was not the right decision, but I felt like it was kind of a compromise between still, okay, at least I'm finishing the degree, my parents aren't freaking out that I'm not, at least having that as a backup while going into this other career choice. I think I'm glad that I did finish it. It is something that I guess I would have, for me, it was kind of like a security thing. Oh, I can fall back on it if this doesn't end up working out.
Absolutely. Everything that I was going to ask you, you just said. You went over the fact that it might have been a waste, but know that it's a backup. I mean, this is the easiest interview I've ever done. It's amazing. And I met Brittany today, a half hour ago.
Well, we shared some protein donuts first, so that I think that got things off to a good start.
You're right. Every interview should start with pro nuts. Yeah. Thank you, San Diego Protein Company. Oh, and the other reason I think we're so in tune is that I started my day by going to Brittany's blog and checking out one of her workouts and then trying it.
Oh, how did you like it?
My calluses will tell you. They're on fire. It was amazing. I got so much done in such a little time. It was one of the do these 5 things for 30 seconds and then do, 3 to 5 sets of them. So I have a little timer and I set it up for it. And man, I was gassed. I do Turkish get-ups usually as a warm-up and slowly. And then here, I'm doing them for my 3rd round. And at some point you could ask the people in the gym almost drop the ball on my head because I like so exhausted. I was like, this girl is intense. This is impressive. I have earned my prona.
Yes, you did. Well, I would say kettlebell training is such an efficient, effective way to train. You know, it has this awesome combination of building strength, but you can also, work your cardiovascular fitness kind of at the same time with a lot of the movements.
Yeah, that's what I noticed is like, not only am I having a hard time, pushing the bell up on some of the clean and press, but like I am panting, just you'd put things in a really good order and you'd said, don't take too much time between them. So I only took 10 seconds between them. And I was like, I'm going to have to show you my oral heart rate data after this. It looked like I was sprinting. It was, it was a great workout. But back to what you said. Okay. So you talked about the possibility that, okay, would I have wasted this time if I quit college? And I love that this story includes that you did quit essentially the field, but you stayed in long enough to get the degree. Because a lot of the times I talk about quitting educational pursuits, and some people should, but I think that's one of the trickiest things because quitting a job doesn't always come with like a thing at the end. Here, I stayed at this job. Here, you get a trophy. But like a degree does, you have that degree for life. When I was in sports medicine fellowship, very similarly, about 3 or 4 months into the fellowship, I was like, I went to my mentor and I said, I don't enjoy doing this. This sports medicine is not for me. Because like you said, may or may not have even envisioned when you picked a certain field, what your day-to-day life would be like. And sports medicine sounds very glamorous. And I had done a lot of shadowing. And I don't know how easy or hard it is to shadow a civil engineering person, but in sports medicine, I could shadow. But I was clearly, handpicking the things I was shadowing. Like, let's go sit on the sidelines of a soccer game or whatever I was in for. I wasn't there on the day-to-day where the athletes would call and be like, stat, we need an allergy shot. Drop what you're doing. Come over to the ball field. But now that I've made you hurry up, wait till I'm done batting. Like just the little day-to-day things that you don't know about.
I definitely think, in our schools, we don't really have enough of that, like, shadowing. Like, I wish I would have had more opportunities, like, in high school to, go shadow someone in different areas to see what I liked. Because I really just felt like I didn't have any idea kind of what I was getting into. And maybe part of it is, my parents are immigrants. They didn't go through the school system in the U.S. And so I'm not sure they really knew either how to show me those things or, give me those opportunities. And so I just kind of felt like I didn't know. I just didn't know what resources there were in order to find out what I actually liked.
Yeah. And there really aren't that many, I don't know how many high schools have a job fair, but I went to a great high school. It had no job fair. And I essentially just picked like my first choice of major was broadcast journalism. Okay, I'm watching the news. That looks like fun. Did I shadow a broadcast journalist? No. And I switched majors 4 times my first year of college because once I realized that sometimes a broadcast journalist had to like stick a microphone in the face of a grieving person, I was like, oh, I am not doing that. All I saw was the glamorous, like, oh, they're sitting at a desk reading something for a living. That looks easy and fun.
Yeah, I feel like I was like reading descriptions of majors on college websites, and this was part of how I was making my decision. And I was like, when I think back to it now, I'm like, that's so silly. That doesn't really tell you anything about what you're going to be doing.
Not at all. And so in sports medicine, I decided the same thing you did. Like, if I finish this, I get my certification. And if I don't want to do sports medicine, fine. But if for some reason I need that as a fallback, your backup plan, great. And I love that you did that, that you realized both values of that you had a backup plan, but also that it does give you a legitimacy. And anybody out there who's considering an educational pursuit quit, this is one of those, if it's a relationship quit or job quit, I'll say I err on the side of quitting. But in educational pursuits, I often don't. My brother and I both went to law school. He realized he didn't want to be a lawyer somewhere in law school and didn't take the bar. And that led to a bunch of struggles for him afterward because he then didn't have the set of backup options that a person would have had they taken the bar. And I am so proud of him because he said, like, no, I do not want to do this. I do not even want to spend the money to take the bar. And he now is like super successful in the Army. So everything worked out for the best. But at the time, I know he went through a few years of struggle because he didn't necessarily have that full backup he would have.
Yeah.
Tell me about your aha moment, how you got to that realization that whatever you chose for your life didn't affect the other people whose opinion you were worried about.
That's a good question. I think it took some time. As I mentioned, that it was kind of during my third year, where towards the end of my third year of college, where I started struggling. And then it was probably, I don't know, 9 months to a year later that I really made that like final decision. I feel like I was kind of wrestling with it for a while. So I had an internship after my third year, and I was making a lot of money doing some engineering stuff, but I like couldn't wait to leave the office and go to my job at the gym in the evenings. So I think that was a big factor in terms of showing me like what the day-to-day might look like. Of course, it wasn't quite what it would have been like had I been, full-time engineer. But it gave me some idea that the money really didn't matter enough for me if I really didn't like what I was doing. So I think that was a big factor to show me. And then as I, continued working at the gym, the owners of the gym also ended up offering me a position like, hey, we know you're not sure what you want to do, but, we would love to have you here full time if you decide, So that decision there and me like realizing I really wanted to take that was also, a big factor in me just realizing like, you know what? I'm just going to do it. That's what I really want to do. And I am kind of a person who follows their intuition. And I think I just felt like at a certain point, I just knew, like maybe it took some time and all of a sudden I had this clarity where like, you know what, I'm just going to do that. And I just didn't look back and just did it.
That's awesome. And again, the one thing I wrote down while you were talking was intuition, and then you cover it. Of course. I'm just going to sit over here and let Brittany talk.
Yeah, I've found that like, I guess, I don't know if you call it intuition or what it really is, but usually when I have something come up in my life that I'm kind of wavering about, like there's a decision to be made and I'm not sure how to make it, it's usually just like, okay, just give yourself a little time and it will become like when it's time to make it, you will know. And that seems to have served me pretty well. Like had some big decisions to make, and all of a sudden, just maybe a month or two later, I just knew it was time, and I knew which way I wanted to go.
Yes.
So,
oh, that's great. That's a really good point. Never to force a quit or rush a quit. It will appear to you at the right time. Nobody's ever brought that up before, but that's really well put. I've been in that situation myself. Like, should I quit this at some point? It's not exactly working. And then one day it'll smack me in the face and I'm like, I'm out,
Yeah.
Or no, this is the greatest thing ever. I'm going to stay into this, It's not something you should stress over. The more you listen to your intuition, the easier that becomes.
Totally.
And if your intuition's saying, I'm not really sure right now, well then you don't have to make it sure.
Yeah. It probably means you need more time to make the decision, I think.
Yeah. Just time to gather more information and do more listening to your intuition. It'll keep talking until it whispers until it yells,
Yeah.
And until it yells, maybe you don't need to do anything,
Yeah.
Nobody's judging you on timelines. That's like half of everything I say. Like nobody's judging you. If you would have done engineering for a few years and then decided to quit and do nobody's judging you. Might have been an even harder quit at the time, but might have been even easier because you might have been like, oh, I'm in this and I really hate it.
I think it might have been harder quit just thinking like if I was making a lot of money, I feel like you can get used to living a certain lifestyle probably based on a different salary than what I'm living on now. I call myself like, I'm a pretty minimal person, but I've always kind of been like that. So for me, it works fine. I kind of thrive on the unpredictability of exactly how much money I make each month. It kind of, I don't know, excites me in some ways. Like I know some people are very uncomfortable with that. Like they need to know, and it gives them anxiety if they don't know exactly what they're making each month. For me, it's kind of the opposite. Like I like my schedule changing from day to day. I don't mind not knowing exactly how much money I'm going to make based on, what opportunities come up or how hard I decide to work that month. So for me, that's kind of a part of the spice of life.
I love it. I love it. Has there been a time in your kettlebell career where you've made any quits?
Well, I actually recently have, in the past month or so, decided to take a little bit of a break from competing, actually. So kind of a challenging decision for me, but I've definitely, since starting in the fitness industry and starting to compete in kettlebell training, had some periods where I overtrained myself pretty heavily, which is something that I feel the fitness industry very rarely talks about. They're always pushing people like, you need to do more, you need to exercise more, you need to work out for longer, you need to just move more, that's the solution. And while for many people, maybe it is, but there's also the other side of it where, I see it a lot, I think, with women getting obsessed with losing weight and then overtraining and getting a lot of hormonal problems and things. These are things that I struggled with. And it's something that I always kind of crack up at they have these memes on the internet. It's like, you never regret a workout, right? Yeah. Which I actually completely disagree with.
Yes.
Because I have many workouts that I know contributed to myself overtraining in some ways. And I'm like, I actually do regret that workout. Yeah. I wish I hadn't done that workout. I was stopped halfway. Right. So I think it's not necessarily true. And even from overtraining probably 2 or 3 years ago, I feel like I still suffer some after effects in terms of like fatigue and hormonal imbalance. I didn't have my period for a number of years and had to kind of work to kind of restore that balance. Wow. And so I recently decided to take a little bit of a hiatus from competing in the kettlebell training just because it's almost like while I love it, I've also been doing it for over 6 years and with very little breaks. And most sports have like a season, but I've found in the last few years it's just kind of like, oh, well, I want to do this competition. I'm going to do this. Oh, there's another one over there. It just keeps rolling and keep going. And you get kind of remotivated by the competitive stuff. But it was also a little bit of an excuse for me to keep overtraining myself. Like, oh, I have this competition coming up. I feel exhausted today, but I have to train, And so this year in 2018, I kind of decided I want to listen more to my body and try to make movement a little bit more organic in terms of how I'm feeling and try to kind of restore that hormonal balance and make sure health is first and not just physical performance. Because, I think there's a difference between, fitness or training for health versus training for either performance or aesthetics. They're not always the same thing.
No, absolutely.
So that's been something that's tough. That was kind of a tough quit or, I don't plan to completely quit, but tough to kind of manage in terms of, I would say there's some expectations of me within that community and having to realize that like, no, you know what, but this is what's best for me and not worry about, what other people may think or perceive from this.
Yeah. And I love that you brought up, I didn't necessarily quit completely. And I keep reiterating this. Quits are often just like a temporary thing that you go through. Like, I just have to say, I'm not going to compete this year. It doesn't say I'm never going to compete again. I always point to, and I'm bad at sports references specific, but I think Michael Jordan at some point in time retired and then unretired. You know, you can have something as majestic as a Michael Jordan retirement and then be like, whoops, nope, changed my mind. Like, rarely is a quit fatal. And, I'm never going to do this thing again. Heck, you could not compete for years and still come back and compete. You've seen people do that all the time.
I've seen plenty of people do that in the world of kettlebells too. So yeah.
And there are a lot of people who listen to this podcast who are in the fitness group that I work out with in the morning called November Project. And they're extremely athletic, hard-hitting worker-outers. They are super into fitness. That might be their job as well as their hobby. And I really appreciate that you shared that part of your journey because I was there. That's actually when I was introduced to kettlebells is I got a personal trainer, and his name is Daniel Cordero, who is now also my chiropractor / movement guru. He does everything. He's great. He introduced me to kettlebells as part of telling me, don't work out for so long every day. It's not like a linear thing, like, okay, if you work out an extra 30 minutes, you're going to be that much leaner or fitter or whatever. He's like, at some point you're just doing more damage, cortisol and the stress on your body and the fatigue. Like, I was getting to a point where I was so fatigued. And when he showed me kettlebell things and gave me like, here's a shorter workout, just do 40 minutes of these things. And like you said, kettlebells are so good at getting cardio and strength all at the same time that it's a really efficient means of working out. And so that helped me a lot. I actually got a better fitness and aesthetic result when I wasn't killing myself anymore.
Yeah. Well, I think we live in a society where more is more, or that's what everybody thinks, right? But that's not necessarily true. The real benefits from training also come from your recovery, and making sure that you're eating right and sleeping right and taking the time after your trainings to let your muscles recover. And I think somewhere along the way, a lot of us have lost touch with really being in tune with our body, both with regards to recovery and with regards to like nutrition. A lot of times people get so, they don't trust their body anymore to even know what they should eat or when they should eat or how much they should eat because they forgot what it's like to be hungry, or they don't trust their body, will be hungry for the foods it wants. Similar with recovery, that they're kind of like, if you're really sore and your muscles are hurting and you don't feel like working out at all, might be a sign, that you're overtraining or that you're not letting your body recover. And more is not always more. And everybody, responds to exercise differently. So I often tell people, like, if you work out 3 times a week, that's great. You don't necessarily need to work out like 6 days a week to see results, I mean, I really believe in finding some kind of movement that you enjoy. So, if you're going 5 or 6 times a week and you're forcing yourself to go, well, either you don't have enough recovery, or if you don't like what you're doing, find something that's fun that you look forward to doing. I mean, I would say that like burning calories is the same phrase as wasting time. If you're just working out to burn calories, then what's the point? Again, you're wasting your life doing something that makes you miserable, right? So you want to find something that's fun for you. I would say it's a number one. If somebody likes to salsa dance or something, go do that 3 times a week, and get your exercise that way. If you love going to the gym, great, then do that. You know? It's different for everyone.
That's a great point. There's 1,000 different forms. If you could buy a baby, I have a little mini trampoline, like those are the little, now they're called rebounders, but it's just a mini trampoline that some days when I'm like, I'm not feeling it, I'm just going to bounce on this mini trampoline for 10 minutes.
That's awesome. See, it's just like playtime. It's like we forget that when we're kids, we just play, but it's like exercise at the same time. But kids just do what they feel like doing, what's fun, So I feel like as adults, we got to try to find that,
Yes.
I try to, the group fitness classes I teach, I try to kind of incorporate a little bit of like, this should be fun, why are you guys here? You're here because you want to do something to get healthier, but you should be having fun too. Otherwise, what's the point?
I was at that overtraining point and I was having a hard time letting myself listen to my body. And it helped that, Daniel said he helped stress the importance of not overtraining. But then somewhere around that time, that led me to getting this Aura ring, which I wear all the time, that you wake up in the morning and it tells you whether or not you are ready for a big time workout. And I love having the objective data. It's not just like, oh, you're feeling kind of weak today. Are you really feeling weak? Push past it. No. There's objective data. Like your heart rate is this high. Your heart rate variability is this high. Your body temperature is here. You slept this long. It helps a person like me, kind of a type A person who thinks, oh, I need to be going to the gym, but I need to know exactly how hard I can work out. You never know if it's just your own kind of desire to take it easy that day or if it's objectively what you should be doing. And so that's really helped me.
And I think that's the challenge for a lot of people is like, if they don't really know and then someone else is like, well, you should work out anyway. You got to push through it or no pain, no gain, that kind of thing. It forced people to push through. But it's actually, I've seen a lot of my friends who are trainers recently post a lot of stuff like that on their like social media about using their heart rate variability to say whether or not they should go hard today or take it easy. I'm like, I really need to, now you saying it, I'm like, I need to start tracking this and get one of those.
Awesome. I can hook you up. Yeah. The other phrase that can kind of go away besides winners never quit and quitters never win is the whole no pain, no gain. Really, like, yes, at some point in time, my muscle should hurt a little bit while I'm lifting a kettlebell. But like if getting up and going to the gym is painful and every part of running is painful, like, no, the gain is, there probably isn't gain.
It's going to just lead to injury or, people thinking that unless you're debilitatingly sore, you didn't get a good workout. I get that all the time. People are like, well, I wasn't really sore, and they like want to be really, really sore. And I always have to be like, soreness is not always the best reflection of whether it was a good workout. I mean, writing a tough killer workout, anybody can do that. I'll tell you to do 1,000 burpees and I guarantee you'll die. Is that a smart thing to have you do? Probably not. It's much harder to create a training program for somebody that's progressive and safe, but still helps them reach their results incrementally, versus anyone and their mom could write a terrible workout.
That is accurate. I like that. 1,000 burpees.
Yeah.
It's funny because the workout group, like I said, there are ultra marathoners in it and all these people that are doing just amazing things. And then there's myself and my friend Patrick. Patrick is a representative for Rolflex.
I actually have one of those. I think I know Patrick.
That's right. He was our one mutual friend. Yes. He and I are always like, we cut the running it to like 3 miles. Like that's how long we run, like we are into recovery. We're into our different fun types of fitness. He does a lot of volleyball. I did a half marathon in 2004. And the entire time, all 2 hours and 14 minutes of it, I spent telling myself, you are never doing this again. You are quitting marathoning like right now. And I have, it's one of those things like I think they say about childbirth, like you forget how bad it is. That's why you do it again. I just spent the entire 2 hours being like, you will not forget how bad this is. You are not going to do this again.
And have you done it again?
No.
Well,
never.
I think the mental self-talk is incredibly influential.
Yeah. When you're around people that are that athletic and they're like, who's doing the Carlsbad half this weekend? And nope, not me. Like, part of me wants to just join in because, they're friends and it would be social. But I know for my body that, like, it did not enjoy that. And as a sports medicine doctor, I've worked at so many rock and roll marathons and people come up with their bloody nipples and their missing toenails. And I'm like, no, that's not worth it.
Yeah, I think you either for long distance running to be worth the training and the time, it's like you either got to really love it or you're training for some specific goals. I feel like in terms of fitness, long distance running isn't the most effective way to go unless you're training for long distance running.
Exactly. Yeah, which is what I tell myself when Patrick and I stand there in our 3 mile resistance. That's
probably about as much as you need, right? 3 miles.
I can go longer than that, but I just like one day when he was like, yeah, I max out about 3 miles. I was like, I like that. I'm going to adopt the Patrick 3 mile max. You mentioned stopping competition, and it reminded me also of my sister-in-law. She was a fitness competitor. And she came to me at some point in time with, don't know if I should do another fitness competition. And I was like, okay, let's look at the pros and cons. What would it take? And she's like, well, essentially, starving myself for the next 3 months and these 2-a-day workouts and all these things. And she had just become a realtor. And, the social aspect of that is important. You got to go to things, meet clients. And I think just that day she'd gone to a reception. She's like, well, I had water and, I don't know, a piece of celery or so, whatever, like from the reception she could do on this diet. And I said, like, is it, I said, well, let's talk about what you're going to get from it. And, you've done a lot of competing, you get the titles and the titles help you obviously with your job. She is a realtor, like that's unrelated to, another title it would be great for self-esteem, which is important. And I don't, downplay that or to decrease its importance. But I just said, okay, what is the benefit? You get up there, you feel good about yourself. There's a feeling of accomplishment. Is that worth 3 months of suffering and possibly losing business and other things, and now, she is happily not doing competitions anymore. We worked through it. And I think your point was very valid. Like, look at your overall goals. And your goal is to be a healthy, well-balanced person, along with accomplished in your sport. But when you realize that one is taking an extreme toll on the other.
Yeah, well, actually, everything you said is completely relatable to my situation because while I have loved competing, I actually thought about that exact thing when I was, weighing whether or not to compete at like the world championships that are coming up. And I thought to myself, well, is it worth this 1 or 2 days of kind of like glory and my accomplishment for struggling through every day of training? And don't get me wrong, it hasn't always been like that. I have loved my training, but in the past few months, due to various factors, like I haven't enjoyed it, hasn't felt good for my body. And so that was, essentially what told me it was the right decision was I don't want to feel miserable for several months training for this one day. If I'm not enjoying it right now, then I'm going to take a step back and focus on what really is my job, which is coaching people. And so, I have a whole team of people I'm coaching for this competition, and it's just an opportunity for me to become a more attentive, better coach to my athletes, which is really the end game when you're a coach or an athlete and a coach, is that, at a certain point, you won't be able to compete at the highest level anymore. And if you want to continue to participate in the sport, you kind of live on through coaching your athletes.
Yeah.
And so for me, not everybody who is a high level athlete is good at coaching or enjoys coaching. But for me, luckily, I really enjoy coaching probably almost more than my own competition in it. So for me, being able to take that attention that competing at the highest level would probably require me to barely be able to pay attention to my athletes when they're doing their competition set and, be really focused on my own training, not as much as on theirs. So being able to take that attention and give that to them is also very valuable. And then being able to, on the days of the competition, just be able to really focus on what they need and how it can help them achieve their best. So for me, that's really rewarding as well. So that was kind of helpful in terms of making the right choice and kind of tending towards like, this will help my career possibly more than just, I don't know, my ego in some ways.
Right. I love that. So much of quitting is just kind of telling your ego, hang tight. You're not necessarily the best driver of my decisions right now. And that struggle you had talked about with, what are people going to think if I give up this degree and just become a trainer? Like, that's a big ego challenge.
Yeah.
That's
totally.
And essentially all that is an ego challenge. And you never know what somebody else is thinking. Probably much of the kettlebell world would put a lot more importance and be a lot more impressed with what you've accomplished since, kind of dropping engineering than just, than having an engineering degree. They wouldn't see you as just a fitness person.
Yeah,
like, you're a world champion.
Ironically, I think the post that you commented on my Instagram was something where I talked about how people now, when they hear about my story, they talk about how I'm like so lucky, or I'm so fortunate that I just get to work out all day, or that's my job, or whatever, which first of all is kind of a misconception, because if you're really a good coach, you're not working out while you're training somebody. But it's not really luck, it's just making the choice. But sometimes people, if they're afraid of quitting or changing direction because of what other people think, they see that as something, well, I could never do that. But all it really is the mindset shift to take action and just kind of say, like, doesn't matter what anybody else thinks, I'm just gonna do it.
Yeah.
But people say, like, oh, lucky. And I'm kind of like, well, I don't call it luck.
Right. It's a very conscious choice.
Yeah.
And it wasn't necessarily easy.
Yeah. And ironically, like I said, people kind of look at it in a positive, versus when I made that decision, I thought people would kind of look down on that decision, which didn't end up being the case, and just shows you that, usually your worst fears about what other people think are unfounded.
Oh my God, there's no better way to finish this podcast. Anything I could have said, she just went ahead and said anyway. I love it. How about you tell people where they can find you on social media or in San Diego if they'd like to learn more? Yeah,
so I'm kind of known in the fitness world as like KB Fit Brit. So you can find me on Instagram and Facebook as KB Fit Brit. I have a website where I post a bunch of content about kettlebell training and fitness, kbfitbrit.com. I'm also on YouTube, Brittany van Schravendijk, which you'll have to look up the spelling of my name to find that one. But not so active on Twitter, so those are kind of the main ways to reach me.
Gotcha. If you want to do the same killer workout I did this morning, I think it was your most recent blog post, maybe February 8th-ish or so, the circuit thing at the bottom.
It's on my website. You can find it there.
Yes. Yeah. You tell me how you all felt after that workout. Brittany, this was a total pleasure. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
And everybody out there, until next time, happy quitting.